Alrighty, there we go. So, hello everybody. It's me, Constance. Thank you for joining on the Philly Autism Advocacy podcast. I have here today my good friend Victoria. Hey, Victoria. Thank you for joining me today.
Hey everyone, thanks for having
So, just a little bit about me, Victoria. So, we went to college together. And how long ago was that? Because we're definitely getting older here.
me in 2014.
Okay, not that long ago, but yes. So that's
Pretty
the last time we've seen each other, right?
enough time to have kids and
Yes.
create.
To have kids, we've got a lot going on now, and now we have reconnected, and we share this in common where we have children who show similar things and on the spectrum. So I'm really glad to have you here. And just want to share like some of your knowledge with other parents who are similar to you, because I know you have that education background there that has actually like helped you with both your children when it comes to what's going on. If you want to explain some of that.
So while I was actually still at Shippensburg, I started with in-home company in Maryland, um, and basically I would just go in, be kind of a it's called a their intensive therapist, but we did like community outings and where we most of the kids were in their teens, go out, practice how to be in a store, pay for things. One client we practiced just cross country. We just ran and just had conversations and just that whole social aspect, while at the same time providing respite for families. So that time the parents could go out, do what they need to do, stay home, and you would take them out to the community. And then I kind of graduated into early intervention, and that was 2 to 3 year olds doing discrete trial, following directions, behavioral programming that BCBA's put into place. And then I found out I was having my son, and I realized I need something more full time, more stable, um, salary, benefits, and I found myself at Ivy Mount in Rockville. Fantastic private school, um,
Ooh.
behavioral, academics. Um, they go from elementary all the way up to 21. So, and they just graduate to each class as they get older. They have, and then as once they get to a certain age, about 13, they start talking about job coaching, and they are actually partnered with several businesses in the county or even Virginia that allow their staff to take students and actually work there, just for experience and learning those vocational skills. So I've kind of went from in-home to early intervention to teaching, and then when we had Savannah, I started staying home, and that's where the homeschool came in, the new diagnosis came in, pandemic happened,
Yeah.
and now I'm in public school subbing. So
I didn't realize you were doing all of that.
yeah, the last year of school, last year and a half, I was commuting to Hagerstown
Wow.
times a week. Yeah,
Oh my gosh, I had no idea. You were working, girl.
yeah. I mean, it went with my major, and it gained experience before I even graduated. So
It is awesome what you did, because like where you worked at, I've actually looked into like even myself, because like even myself with being a single parent and sometimes just like wanting to sleep past like 6 or 7 o'clock, like places like that are really useful for like, even if you're not a single parent, even if you just, both parents, have to work or anyone needs something to. I would have loved to have like been to the place that you worked at, because there's kind of the stigma there as well, where I think some people are unsure of places like that because of, maybe some things that they've heard about some people not being,
yeah,
treated well. But if I would have, if I would have known there was people like you at a place like that, then I'd be like, yes, let me, and I
yeah,
probably have to look more into that too, like in Philly and see what they have
yeah.
here.
I know for Maryland. So Autism Waiver, if you sign up for Autism Waiver, they get you in touch with respite resources.
And what's Autism Waiver exactly?
Autism Waiver is a program. Most states have it. Maryland has it. It has a long waiting list right now.
Okay.
We haven't applied, but it'll help pay for therapies. It'll help pay for if you want a para to go into the school. It'll help with that. It'll help. It'll get you respite. It's.
Oh.
I think it's not 100% sure. I'll have to look it up, but I
Mm-hmm.
believe that it provides services um, alongside your insurance. I know working in the classroom, we used to have um, individuals come in and just observe the student and leave
Yeah.
to make sure like they still need the services. So
Oh, I just wrote that down because I'm gonna have to look into that and definitely share, because looking into like other countries, they seem to, like for instance the UK, they seem to maybe have it a little more together when it comes to like taking care of children on the spectrum. So that's why I thought when you were saying the autism waiver, it reminded me of like what
yeah,
they have for, I think like if you're a parent and your child's on the spectrum and over there, you automatically like get an allowance, or I guess it's like their SSI automatically, but they don't necessarily have to
yeah.
go
So
through much.
is totally different than Autism Waiver, but I think it helps provide
Some
support. Yeah.
okay, which is yeah, which is awesome.
Even the school district that I sub for actually has Autism Waiver listed on a couple of their pages as a resource under special education.
Oh, I love it. And this is the information that, we don't know. So, and what a lot of parents would really want to know too is the homeschooling part. Like, so what are your thoughts on homeschooling? I've watched you like online. I'm just like, man, I really want to do like this looks like what we should all be doing, but what made you do it?
So what made us do it is Christian was in kindergarten. He started kindergarten normally. Pandemic hit that March. They went virtual.
Yeah.
So that spring when the pandemic first happened and schools were going virtual, we were watching him on virtual, and he was about to turn 6 that June. So he was 5.5. Um,
Okay.
so even that being on the computer is hard for a 5.5-year-old to pay attention. But we'd log on 2 minutes and he'd be like, "Am I done? No, your teacher's talking. 5 minutes in. Am I done? Christian, it's only been 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Just pay attention." And we noticed that he just wasn't retaining the
Yeah.
information. He didn't retain anything from that year being virtual. And so we're like, and then we found out they were going virtual for the following year. And we're like, all right, we're going to homeschool. You know what? This academics are important. Um, and then that September, we finally got into Kennedy Krieger, and he was diagnosed with autism. We thought, oh, we're just going into this appointment. He was probably referred for an ADHD evaluation. Now is an autism evaluation, and she said 100%. No.
Oh,
Um, the only thing he doesn't check off is one criteria, and that's hand flapping, spinning, the repetitive behaviors.
okay.
Everything 100%. Um, but now we're seeing more repetitive behaviors pop up. So it's also, as they develop, things change as well. So the
Yeah.
following year, um, we actually were looking into OG tutoring. And so he sat down with his tutor and she went to do the pre assessment to see where he's at. And he couldn't, he had not retained anything from, or he hasn't retained a lot from kindergarten or from our homeschooling. So the ability to retain information was
Yeah.
totally there. And so he didn't score well in reading and writing. He was about pre-K kindergarten level still.
Okay.
So we said, there's no way he's going to survive in a second grade class.
Okay.
With the pandemic still, with masks and still having pandemic protocols,
It was a lot. It was a lot for the children in general, but I feel like for children on the spectrum, it was just like, what happened, guys?
So we took that journey and we did OG tutoring, homeschooled, just, and that's where we fell into this child led. What are you interested in today? How can I incorporate math, science, and reading into engaging? And that is the pro of homeschooling a child with special education, is it's one-on-one.
Yeah.
You have more than one child, it can still be a one-on-one because the others can be doing a busy activity or something
Oh,
while you're working with that child on a lesson. So lessons can be one-on-one. You can figure out what your child's interested in science wise and do that as your science curriculum. You can figure out how do they learn. If they're hands on, let's do math hands on. If they're visual, let's do math visual. You know, it's, and the child gets to take breaks when they want. If
yeah.
you need a break, go chill. You know, come to me when you're feeling open to learning, not sitting at a desk, being told to get out your book,
Yeah.
asking to go to the bathroom, being on a schedule of we need to get this done because we have testing coming up. So the only con is it's hard to make a career and a salary while you're homeschooling.
Yeah.
Because you can't just leave your kid at home,
Yeah.
and you're not sending them to school so you can work. So that's the only challenge I found, which my husband and I have discussed. He's like, if you can make a full-time salary and homeschool, he's like, once you find that solution, I'm all for homeschooling.
I be thinking the same thing. I'm like, how can I make this work so that me and Austin, because I'm really on everything that you explained with how, like, you're teaching your children and they pick up on things. That's kind of how like Austin already learned. So him being in school, it's like taking him out of his comfort zone to make him try to like be, a little bit of a zombie or something, or not a zombie, but kind of like robotic instead
Yeah.
of him wanting to move around.
And the other con too is having kids with special needs. You will not qualify for all the special education services. You know,
Yeah.
last year the last 2 years, Christian was able to get speech. Maryland just put in a law that says as of July 2022, you can't get any special education services if you're homeschooling. So you just have to research. If you're interested in homeschooling, you just have to research what your state allows.
That's awesome because do you see the question that's up? Because so we do have a question here actually where they ask what's the difference between homeschool and virtual school.
So homeschool is you're teaching the child yourself. You have the curriculum, you are the teacher, or you have a family member, or because with homeschooling you can hire someone to homeschool your child. You don't have to be the teacher. Um, but virtual school is usually when you are like the school district I work for, because of the pandemic, they now have a virtual academy in place. So virtual school is more like a charter where
Okay.
you're under an umbrella of like a public or private institution, whereas homeschooling is you're completely on your own unless you go with option B, which is you can homeschool under a church or a a different entity.
Oh,
Option A is you are doing it all on your own. You're coming up with the curriculum or you're buying the curriculum and you're just control. Virtual school, I believe, with our school district, with virtual school, you are, because you're in that public, you're still enrolled in a school,
right. Yeah.
able to get special education services.
Right. I think they were trying to explain this to me, like, I think a while ago when I was trying to figure out as well, like, what's the difference or how do I go about, like, so that he can still get the services, like you
Yeah.
said, that way. That was a good question.
But if you do want to homeschool, but you want the special education services, Autism Waiver can help you get PT, OT, and speech. So there are ways around. You would just have to get private services.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
And like Medicaid, like, will, at least in Maryland, for kids up until 20, pay for services like that, speech, OT. Like for our eval, our insurance covered his neuropsych eval completely.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because these
Yeah.
things are expensive. So
Yep.
let me see. Oh, she actually put something. I'm in Philadelphia. I signed up for a virtual school, but I think I should have went the homeschool route. He is 5. I'm put that so up so you can see it.
So, what is Pennsylvania's mandated age to start school? Is it 5?
I believe it is 5, like kindergarten, I
Okay.
believe, or maybe, yeah, I believe they have to start in kindergarten.
Not
Or
all
not sure.
schools. Can they start at 5 or can they start at 6? Can
I'm
they
not,
wait?
I'm not sure about that. I know that kindergarten is when, like, I think we're supposed to start. I guess the age kind of depends. Oh, she said 5, so it is 5.
So, the best thing about homeschooling a 5-year-old is they're still in that play based learning. Most countries don't start formal learning until age 7. So, the best thing for them, like handwriting, playing with Play-Doh, playing in sand, using tweezers to pick things up. All
Yeah.
so you can hide letters in Play-Doh or sand and have them use their fine motor to dig it out, and have them match it to a paper that has all the letters on it, and they're learning hands-on and engaged with different sensory, different fine motor. They're using all their senses, and
Yeah.
it's or you can say take their interests and try and figure out how can we.
Around their interests, figure out, actually, when I worked as a one-on-one, I made up a game for this child that, like, he told me, he was like, "I do not like reading, you're not gonna make me read." So I had to make up a scavenger hunt game for him, where I had to hide stuff, and I'm like, "We're not gonna go to this next toy that you wanna get unless you read this page," and he had to read the page, but it was fun for him, so when I came to school the next day, he was like, "Where are we going today? Like, what book am I reading today?" So because it was different.
Go on an alphabet scavenger hunt. Go on a number scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
Still learning, but you're in tune to where they are developmentally. They're not ready to sit in a chair, and that's what my husband and I have kind of come to a conclusion. Kindergarten is the new first grade.
Yeah, isn't it? Isn't that crazy? They want them to do a lot.
First grade is the new second grade. You know,
Yeah.
the act. Even when I sub in pre-K, in the special ed pre-K and the gen ed pre-K, they're learning letters and simple addition. It's no longer pre-K or kindergarten is where you come to learn to socialize and
Right. You're supposed to already know how to be social. And if you don't, then if you can't sit on the rug with the other kids in kindergarten, it's a problem. Because that's how it was when I was a one-on-one. I asked this one child, I said, "Hey, why don't you want to sit on the rug?" He told me because it was boring. And the
yeah,
whole class laughed, but he was telling the truth. Because you do this every day, you sit on the rug and you're not, he was telling the truth.
the beauty of homeschool is it's engaging because we can take our lessons outside. We can take our lessons to the aquarium. It's kids are meant to explore,
Hmm.
drilled with information. They are sponges, and that's the best part of homeschooling is you can turn making bread into a math lesson,
Right.
sequencing lesson for reading, like following directions. And those are life skills. Making bread, cooking, those are life skills, but also it's also teaching math, reading, but or I think we actually during the pandemic I had to help my husband at work, and he's a contractor, and we took the kids, and Christian was helping with the measuring tape, reading the numbers,
Aw.
counting out screws and giving them to my husband. So that's math, but it's also a skill that he can use later on, reading a measuring tape, drilling, screws.
It's the real world interactions that he really needs to learn
Yeah.
anyway, which they don't learn in school, is these real world interactions.
Or going to the store, we always have him bring his wallet. If you want to buy something, okay, I'm not going to do the interaction for you. That's a social situation. That's a money math situation. Um, just all these real world situations that they just don't teach you in school, but are helpful, especially for when you have a kid that's in special education.
Yeah.
Those applications of real life is what helps them retain it.
I agree. When I actually went to the school board and I was speaking to them about what my son requires or what I kind of need versus like parents that may have like typical children, Austin he's highly intelligent. It's the social things that we really need to work on. So it's just like, for some parents, they want their children to be integrated like with, let's say a typical class or a regular class. For me, I just want Austin to be able to learn in whatever setting he's in and get those social skills and everything. And if he can't do it in a class with 25 kids, then he can't do it. You know what I mean? Put him in a class with 12 kids and
Yeah.
like 2 helpers, but either way, he still needs these skills, like for sure. So, we have another question. It looks like I'll put it up here. He was diagnosed with 2 autism, trying to get just to sit to look at cyber school. Oh yeah, so getting to sit is a problem. What I do? Oh, she want to try the homeschooling part. What can she do for like, I guess for herself to like be a homeschooling teacher? Because for you it's a little easier, I guess, because you have like the background. So I guess you kind of were just like, we'll do this and this kind of.
I actually didn't even know how to start. I went onto our school district, typed in our school district, typed in homeschooling, and there was the regulations. You have to submit. So for our school district, you have to submit a form every year of your intent to homeschool, so that they can mark you that you are homeschooling, and that's why you're not enrolled. And then we have to actually submit portfolios in November, December, and then June, with all our work showing that they give you a chart that they're evaluating with all the subjects. So they want math, social studies, science, um, even art and music and PE. They want to see that you have a curriculum for all those. Um, so I would start by whatever school district you're in, go to their website and see if they have a homeschooling page. And then um, see if they give you, what you need to do to get started, or email. I'm not familiar with the Philadelphia school district, but it should have it on their website or
Yeah, I
someone.
think they have something because I know I kind of reached out to look around. So definitely on the district website should be able to.
They probably follow the same. Now, Pennsylvania may be different. Maryland does not require a certain amount of hours, as long as you have enough evidence. Pennsylvania might require a certain number of hours a week that you have to track.
Okay, which I feel like we probably do because we are PA. So, we do like to be
So yeah,
extra on things.
Maryland, you can homeschool for 1 hour every day, so 5 hours a week, and have evidence that you're doing it, and Maryland would be fine. They don't require you to track hours, as long as you have enough work to show
Yeah.
that you are making progress and you're teaching routinely. I remember the first time I submitted my portfolio, I had way too much work. I was trying to, that was the first year, and I think I was like, what are they doing in public school?
Yeah.
How long are they? And I was pushing him to the point where I was getting stressed out trying to make sure we had enough work. He was getting frustrated because he was, frustrated with the work and how we were just pushing along to get work done. And then the second year, I was like, you know what? We're just going to move at our own pace. We're going to do until know something well, then we'll move on.
Yeah.
Because homeschooling is not public school. You can't try, and you shouldn't try to mimic it.
Yeah.
Homeschool your child's pace, what they want to learn, what you want to teach, and getting them to succeed at their pace, at their learning style. It's individual.
Yeah.
It's the child's school.
Which
So
I
just check on the website for your school district, or even Pennsylvania. Do they have a school website for just complete, like MS, like Maryland has Maryland State Department of Education?
I think we do. I'm pretty sure we do because I've been on one of these websites to like find a lot of information out. So I'm
That
pretty, yeah.
website for like that, Pennsylvania's Department of Education would probably have that information on how to get started with homeschooling.
And I've spoken to someone about it professionally, but honestly, you explained it way like a lot better than they did. I was like, what?
I can actually look that up and send it out to you, and then maybe you can put it on the Facebook page.
Yeah, to help out some people because I was so confused. And then speaking of which, too, so you were the one that actually told me that your state, I guess, they have public schools kind of for children like with autism or like with special services.
Programs. So they have um, special programs that are, some of them are actually in separate buildings. So we have like Carl Sandburg Learning Center, Rika, which is more behavioral and emotional. Carl Sandburg is a learning center.
Mm.
It's still diploma bound.
Oh,
Classes are, they have teacher, paras, and they are more like, I think it's believe 8 to 10 students a class. And they have,
perfect for me. That's a good ratio.
it's kindergarten to first in a class, and then it's second and third in a class, and then it's fourth and fifth in a class. So it's very individualized where the student is, and it's smaller class sizes, not 24 to a class with one teacher like my son is in right now.
Yeah,
So when you have a smaller class size, even if you're still doing the same curriculum and moving along, it's easier to get help when there's only 8 other kids in the class.
yeah,
Um, and it's easier for teachers to follow the IEP
yeah.
with help in the classroom. And so, yeah, they're not
Are they difficult schools to get into? Like, is there a waiting list for some of these schools, you would suppose?
waiting list. I would say that they're from our experience, it's been hard to get him what he needs because we're coming back from homeschooling. And even though we provided outside data on what he needs and what type of classroom, they want to get their own data,
Yeah,
you know. Um, but that's where I've come to realize, using my staff email and being the squeaky wheel, you just have to keep emailing and keep talking and be like, I'll email and say, Christian said this today. He's having trouble with this. Oh, he said this today,
yeah, those emails for sure. Emails will keep that paper trail. I'm emailing everything from here on out. Seriously.
Yeah, because you can print emails off and say, well, on this date at this time, I told you this, but you're saying this didn't happen.
Right.
Or I told you he was having trouble with this at this date, and it's been 3 months since we came up with a solution.
Yeah.
So paper trail, being a squeaky wheel and staying on top of them about, your observations. And I found that coming to them with my observations first and got the ball rolling, like, hey,
Yeah.
let me
Yeah.
know, you
Yeah.
know. And it helps to have a child who's verbal.
Yeah.
And, he'll come home and he'll tell me when, oh, I didn't have this. Oh, but you're supposed to have that.
Yeah.
It's like, we call him our little spy.
I can't wait till Austin's at that point where he can tell me things. Well, I have his one-on-one now, so she's like I was telling you, she's
Yeah.
actually my spy. I be texting her like, "What's going on in there?"
But it's
Yeah.
a different with Savannah because she's not verbal. So it's
Okay.
two different sides. She doesn't have a diagnosis yet, but she has a lot of the same red flags. Pediatrician, or our developmental pediatrician, was like, wants to see, does she have how her language development develops. And but picking her up from school. She's only there 2.5 hours, but it's asking about her details of the day. You don't get much.
Yeah.
But I was very impressed. I don't know if all schools do this, but in her pre-K speech class, they met with a counselor, and they talked about bodies and how no one's supposed to touch them and boundaries. And I was so shocked because that is pre-K speech. When they have limited verbal, that's a very vulnerable population.
Yeah. I mean, because of everything that that I'm going through with
Yeah.
like these legal things, and what DHS pretty much telling me that because my son has autism, they won't even touch certain things, and he speaks. So that scared me because I'm like, so you're saying children who like cannot express themselves? That's a scary thing.
Yeah.
I like that. I've never heard of daycare doing this
No
or pre-K.
program for our school district. So she's actually in the school district as a pre-K
Oh,
um, with an IEP. So she has an IEP, speech and social goals, um, which is pretty cool because we're not paying out of pocket for preschool, but she's also getting the services that she needs for speech. And they like being in kindergarten or elementary school. They do evals and they'll implement services as needed if they see an area of need. And I don't know, based on the petition, I get the sense that Philadelphia doesn't have pre-K programs like that for speech or autism.
What we have here is like Elwyn, and Elwyn is really they they like contract people in. So they used to have everyone there and now they don't. And so that what makes it really disorganized. So like my son hasn't had a speech therapist really all summer because they have to go out and find one. Like so that's the problem with Philly and PA because they don't necessarily have like they have kind of centers here, maybe just one, but it's not run very well. But so because we don't have like the schools, they're constantly like trying to go out and find people
Yeah.
pretty much. Like,
And
so
I know in Maryland we have a lot of ABA centers and ABA in-home. Do you
oh,
guys
really?
have any agencies that provide that in Pennsylvania?
Um, we do, but the way it is here is almost like everything's kind of like a hidden secret in a way, and it's almost like you could take your kid to the school district, and even if your child has special needs, they won't tell you these things unless, like, kind of like you said, you're like, "Hey,
You have
so
to read.
what else?" Like, yeah, like even Austin getting the one-on-one and the emergency one-on-one. These weren't things that I knew. These are like me saying, "Well, he needs this. The teacher said he elopes. We have enough data from last year." Da, 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 da. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, now let's do it. But it took constant, like you said, emails of we already know this, so let's set him up for success. Like I'm constantly the person that's like, well, if we know this already, then why are we waiting? You know what I mean? I don't want to wait. At the end of the day, we're the ones who control the IEP. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like we may talk to the team, but I'm the mom. And
Yeah.
that's how I actually have an IEP meeting on Friday. So I'll probably tell you about that.
I'm a people pleaser and I hate to disappoint people. Every time I write an email to his school now this year, like the first one, I was like, my heart was like I'm gonna make someone mad. But each time I write an email, I just get that much stronger, and I'm like, I don't care.
Yep.
This
For
is what
real. It is what it is, right?
from day one when you get diagnosis, or even open house. We go to open house before school starts, and there's a sheet, and she was like, "Tell me about your kid," and I, person like phone numbers and stuff, and then there's questions on like learning style and all that, and then there's extra information, and I put all his behaviors on there. I was like, here, it's like an IEP snapshot.
Yeah. IEPs. I just filled out one yesterday too. I was doing the same thing. I'm like,
And then, my first email I sent from my personal email, and it was kind of like, oh, he's doing great. He's making friends. That was the like ending of the first week of school or beginning of the second week of school. And then this week, I sent it from my staff email, and I was like, hey, just want to check in on your observations and your thoughts of academics and behavior in the school setting. And this is what Christian's articulated to us that he's struggling with. And it was a whole different vibe. Like, but yeah, you just have to. like I we were talking before, it's not back for us special needs parents. It's not back to school season. It's avocation season.
I'm telling you.
So
The whole week was like, it's like what you said. The whole week it was just emails, me talking to the school district, me talking to emailing therapists. I was talking to the dentist today while I was also picking up Austin. His one-on-one was trying to like tell me something, and this is all like within the first week. So yes, I'm like, oh, this is a lot. Um, but yeah, I think each time, hopefully, it'll get easier and easier because we're getting more, like you said, each time we're doing this, it's not anything that people should take personal at this point. And that's what's kind of helped me like get through these emails because, like, okay, this isn't personal. This is my son. At the end of the day, people make mistakes and people aren't as on top of it as I'm going to be. And it's not their job to be, it's my job to be.
yeah,
So, no.
that's the thing. Like you can hire an advocate, but no one's going to advocate for your child the way
Mm-hmm.
because you are personally invested in their success.
Yes.
Now you're thinking down the road, I'm not always going to be here.
Yeah.
And to be able to succeed and be able to not necessarily provide for himself, but we don't want them to be wealthy, but we want them to take care of themselves
Yeah. I agree. We
and
definitely
not
teach them, the basics to be able to do those things. I agree. And I think schools should be teaching all children that besides just children on the spectrum. But, when it comes to our children, they have enough, I feel like, juvenile detention kind of centers where I just feel like these are probably teenagers on the spectrum that never got diagnosed, but now they're just at a place where they're really bad kids to everyone. Where that's not the case. They probably just needed some extra help and love and stuff like that. So I'm hoping with the petition that and let me put this up here so people can look at that. I'm hoping with the petition that like I started and well me and the group and a lot of other people are like putting energy into that pretty much kind of alleviates, that for a lot of teenagers. Like when I went to the school district, I had teenagers there that were talking about them being at these schools because they didn't want to be at the regular school. But the things they were saying is it just to me sounded like they are probably on the spectrum because they didn't want to sit down. They didn't want to do certain things, but they were seen as bad. But they did well at this other school that was to me similar to like a school that would help, children, teenagers on the spectrum. So I'm like, you succeeded in this different environment here. Imagine if you were in that environment the whole time. You know
and
what
the
I mean?
schools that they did well at probably had more routine and more structure.
Yeah, Philadelphia, the schools here, like it's upsetting kind of, but the elementary school I worked at, someone said that elementary school looked like a jail. Like they could say the school classroom and the jail looked the same. Like, so a lot of these schools in Philly already are not even appeasing to the children, let alone to like children that are just like, okay, I'm in a wall here, and I'm not going anywhere. That's why a lot of the kids eloped. They just walked around the hallways because they're like, why? You know what I'm saying? Who wants to sit here? They were
Yeah.
eating lunch in the classrooms too in Philly. So imagine being in there all day and then also eating lunch in there in kindergarten all day. It was crazy.
Was that due to the pandemic or was that prior to the pandemic
This
eating?
was prior to the pandemic, and this was because the building was small. They didn't have a lunchroom. But my thing is, I'm a person that has to like move around, at least go in different rooms. But to be in the same room all day, you know what I mean? You're expecting kids to kind of do the impossible.
Yeah, the space like with the lunchroom and like how the classrooms look like that's part of public school, like with special education services or having space for these extra programs.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Has to do a lot of it with public school comes down to funding,
yeah,
and that's we need to put more funding into our education,
I agree
more focused into our education because it really has the system really just has slipped.
for everybody.
Yeah, not just for special education, but everybody.
For everybody. I agree. When I was in high school, even in high school, I was like, man, the school district is not doing their job. So no, and I think doing stuff like this is definitely going to help do that. So I know we're like definitely a little overboard, but that's because this is the first time we really got to like connect again. And I just want to thank you for being on here so we can get ready to wrap up. Victoria is going to come on again, I believe, right? So we're going to be doing this.
Our sessions will probably just go overboard because we're both passionate about it and
Yeah.
have a personal connection with this whole cause. So
it's to be expected. I love it anyway. And people, people need to hear this as well too. So I'm glad we were able to help the person comment
and I know we talked about future times being about, making different food modifications and CBD and
yeah. So the next time we come on here, we're gonna definitely go into like the foods that we make because we were talking about that earlier. We probably should have caught that and other stuff like that. But so thanks for coming on and watching, guys. We'll see you next time. All right.